This is Tech Tips with Brandy Caldwell. You can see her right there. And my name is Nancy McGowan. I will be monitoring the chat and helping the presenters answer any questions you may have. We want to make sure that this session is engaging and informative. Even though we must all remain muted, please keep your camera on. We want to see you. However, if this turns out to be, if you have any bandwidth problems, just know that stopping your video, just muting that will be really helpful. Be sure to ask any questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if Brandy says, hey, it's time to unmute. And then does anyone have any questions about how to mute or unmute yourself?
We're all muted, so that's a good start.
All right. And just a reminder, if everybody can look in the chat, you're going to see two links. One is a bit.ly link, and that is your attendance for today. And it's my understanding that you only need to do that once for the entire day. And also there is a ALSDE True North Logic. So this is going to be your Power School link. And if you will go ahead and click that, that way you can get professional development credit. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brandy.
All right, and I also added again the link to the slides. And again, I think this is a default of the Zoom platform. You may see us paste those over several times because people that join the room can't see anything from the chat prior to when they join the room. So Nancy will help kind of paste that in there a few more times as people come in. What I tell folks about the slides, you don't have to be in the slideshow to really participate. So I would encourage you to open that in your browser in the background, and then I will show you, let's see. It looks like the course schedule doesn't match the schedule in the spreadsheet. Tech Talks. That's a great question. So I don't know if the attendance sheet includes like those opening sessions. So if it says opening sessions, but it doesn't include this one, just click opening session for today and that should work. But yeah, it's really more about you just kind of noting, here are the things that I plan on attending. So I think Nancy would agree. If Tech Tips isn't there, just mark opening session, because that's kind of what this is, your other opening session.
And Brandy, also at the very bottom, there's an area for notes, and you can just put in, hey, I attended Brandy Caldwell's Tech Tips, and that way they can know exactly where you went. That'll be perfect. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to get going and just share my screen. What I mentioned a second ago is that once you have this pulled up, if you have a Google account and you're signed in, you can go to File and make a copy and have your own copy of these slides. That way, if something happens and I move this copy or somehow goes away, you still have access to it. So if you're signed into a Google account, you can do File, Make a Copy, or download either of those, and you'll have your copy of that as well. So this is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me if you ever have any questions. National boards or technology otherwise. I work for Alabama Technology in Motion, and that's our job. We support teachers. I work out of the JSU In-Service Center, but right now I'm just working with anybody that needs it, because when we all went to remote learning, it was like our hair was on fire, and all of a sudden that technology stuff I'd been talking about, people was like, hey, I think I need to know that. And so I was making videos and sending things out to people just so that I could help them prepare for engaging kids in this kind of format. So feel free to reach out to me. That's got my Twitter information as well. I did national boards like kind of like a granny, like Melissa was saying. I've been one for a while. I had to borrow a class in 2012 when I renewed, and I'll have to do that again. So it was one of the most powerful processes I went through. But back in the day, it was the paper process. So when Melissa approached me a few years ago about the technology of national boards, I'm like, what technology? And so so I had to sit down with my first guinea pig at one of my first boot camps and go, okay, let's get in the portal and let me see what it is that you guys have to do. So what you're going to see in these slides and some of the things I'll address are just really how we've addressed obstacles fears and frustrations that people have over the tech stuff involved with uploading, preparing evidence, submitting videos, those kinds of things. You've all been Zooming for a while. You're all pros, but here's just my, you can mute and unmute. We're still a relatively small group, so if you need to unmute and ask a question, you definitely can. But a lot of times people will just wait and do that at the end. And then anything you put in the chat, Nancy will help out and try to answer. And she's also free to just go, hey, Brandy, stop. And I'll stop and go back and try to answer anything that I can. If you have not gone and seen the guide to electronic submission, that's where I tell people that's your Bible. That's where you need to go and answer all your questions. This particular document was updated this year. I haven't seen that there's major changes, but you always want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date one. And this one has 2020 at the bottom. The first tech tip that I've been giving everybody, and you may totally already know this, but when someone showed me this a while back, it was a life changer. When you're in the Chrome browser, you need to use the find function, and you can do that if you're on a PC with Control and the letter F for find. If you're on a Mac, it's Command F. And so if you're on a long PDF like this, or you're on a website, you can do that key combination, Control F or Command F, and whatever word you're looking for. So let's say I'm looking for the word video. It's going to tell you there are 27 instances of that word. And when I use this arrow key, I can go down and notice that it is highlighted. That is going to be a huge help for you as you're looking through your portfolio instructions, you know, anything that you need to find something specific and find it quickly. That's a huge time saver. And so that is only in the Chrome browser, and it's Control and F. You hold those down, it should have this little search box that opens, and when you're done with it, you just X out of it. So you can use that when you're going through this to look for answers and find them quickly. Now, I say don't be nervous, but I will tell you this: if you mess up and want to resubmit something, it costs $250. So obviously you want to get familiar with the portal, get familiar with how to upload things, understand the submission process so that you don't mess up. But if you do and you have to resubmit, you got to pay a little bit of money for that. So here are two sites that you need to be familiar with. The ePortfolio submission site is going to have a ton of resources. That is where I've gotten a lot of information. And on here, you're going to see different handouts, PDFs of how you would do this on a Mac, how you would do this on a PC. It's got several different tutorials regarding videos. I have a whole session this afternoon on videos because that seems to trip people up quite a bit. And then they have some great tutorials too. The tutorial videos are invaluable. If you are just at the beginning of the process, you need to understand how to register in the portal using those voucher codes, what it means to upload something versus what it means to submit. So definitely check those out. They're like 5-minute videos, well worth watching. So this one was the biggest tip, I think, for everybody, is understand the labeling process for your portfolio. So as you're gathering your evidence, as you're preparing everything, understand how it should be packaged. So you don't want to put everything together, go to your big multifunction copier scanner and put together 22 pages that are all of component 3, because they may want component 3 in 2 parts and not 1, or they may want it packaged a different way. So you need to understand these labels. And once you understand those, you can kind of organize your stuff as you're doing it into those particular labels. I tell people, do practice uploading. It may sound foolish, but you can go into the platform and you can upload a dummy document or a dummy video, and it can sit there until the midnight hour because nothing is final until you hit submit. So I would practice the process, take like a blank student release form and upload it practice the labeling thing, see how easy it is. It's very simple to remove something and re-add it back. So if you want to do that, kind of use it as a placeholder and understand what you're doing there. And so there's just my disclaimer. Don't be afraid. You can label, upload a file, change the label, remove it, upload another file. You can do all of that, and it doesn't matter until you hit the submit checkbox. And then there's even another "are you sure" kind of thing. So you've got some checks and balances along the way before you send it out there into the internet abyss, never to be seen again. So uploading it just puts it in a holding pattern. Submit is when you're sending it to national boards. So just be sure you're familiar with those. This is part of what I talked about yesterday, was scanning and importing your evidence. Now, rather than going through all of these tools, because we do have a short time, I'm just going to mention them. And then when we talk about questions and things at the end, I definitely want your feedback on this. So back in the day, you used to have an old flatbed scanner, and that's how you scanned things. Now it is so much simpler. You can use a big scanner. You can use a scanner copier at your school if you need to, but there's great apps for scanning. My personal favorite is Scannable, and that's an Evernote product, but I've heard rave reviews over these other ones, Cam Scanner, Office Lens, and Adobe Scan. I believe that they're all free, but you can use them on a phone or a tablet. I think all of them are either Android or iPhone, it doesn't matter. So I recommend those. My biggest tip for scanning, if you're using a device, is adequate light. So do it by a window and a contrasting background. So like a piece of black fabric or black poster board underneath it will make your scans better quality, and you can do that quickly. When it comes to screenshots, so I do a lot of screenshots to add them into handouts. It might be something that you want to use for evidence, is a screenshot of something. And so there are screenshot extensions you can have in Chrome. One of them is called Nimbus, Nimbus. And it does a great job screenshotting. Some of your computers have a key combination that allows you to do a screenshot. I like some of these download programs like Sketch, which is for Mac, or Jing, and I think it may have a new name now. It's by TechSmith. Both of those are downloads, but they have a unique ability to screenshot and do an annotation. And so like here is an example of what you can do with the Sketch program, and Jing does the same thing. You make this capture, and then you have these nice tools that allow you to type over something and to use like the circle or the square or whatever. So I really like that particular one. And that one is Sketch. It's for a Mac. Jing does the same thing. Somebody mentioned yesterday that TechSmith Capture, that's the new name. But anyway, it is a download, and it is really a good program as well. I added, don't forget the Google Drive tools. So if you have an Android phone and you have the Google Drive app, when you open it, you can activate the camera, and it won't just take a picture. You'll have the option on Android to scan straight to a PDF into Google Drive, which is super handy. That kind of alleviates that additional step. That's the one thing I would say about whatever scanning app you're going to use. Consider how that scanning app either saves or sends your scan. Where do these go? The advantage of the Google Drive scanning option is it's straight into Google Drive, so it kind of alleviates where does it go. The other ones, you may have to email it to yourself. I like Scannable because I have an Evernote account, so it just puts it into that account. It's easy for organization. And then yesterday, somebody mentioned how to allow students and parents to sign things remotely. And that is something I've actually been exploring, helping teachers come up with a virtual open house or virtual meet the teacher. And you guys may have to experience having students sign things remotely. And so there were several suggestions, and keep this in mind when we get toward the end if you have suggestions for this. One that I found that I liked is called prontosign. And if we have some time at the end, I may share my iPad screen and show you that one. I liked it because there were no in-app purchases. And I felt like it would be easy to show parents or students how to open that app and how to sign something like a PDF and send it. So anyway, there are probably some other ones out there, but that was one that I really liked. PDFs, that is what my recommendation is. Once you've got everything like you like it, whether you use Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever, I would recommend that you save everything as a PDF. I like the fact that you do that and the formatting is locked in. And I also find that PDFs are the easiest to sort and reorder the pages in case you need to do that. So there are some suggestions through national boards of different programs to use. The one warning I would give you is that several programs they suggest are downloads. If you're like me and your device doesn't belong to you, mine belongs to Jacksonville State, I have to get the technology team to do any installations on my computer. So if that's the case, that's one obstacle. The other obstacle is when you're downloading things that are free, sometimes they're not free. Sometimes they come packaged with other stuff that you don't want. So be aware that if you're going to download these, uncheck anything that comes prepackaged with it, like a Norton antivirus or whatever. It sounds great, but just don't do it because typically it's something you don't want. I recommend Cami to people. And I'm just going to quickly walk you through what Cami does. Cami is free, but it has a paid plan. And if you start really loving Cami, you may want the paid plan. It might be worth it to you for using in your classroom. But the very first advantage to having Cami is that it allows you to annotate on top of a PDF. And so just the very most simple thing about it is that I can grab this PDF and using the tools that don't have a lock on them, because those are the paid tools, I can go in here and I can type into the PDF. And once I've typed it, I can move it around. I do have some font size and color choices. I can't actually change it to a different font on the free version, but that doesn't matter to me. The other thing that I like are the drawing and the shape tools. And I tell people, if you're old like me and you know what whiteout is, I like the fact that I can take out stuff in this PDF, almost like whiting it out just by using the white shape and taking that out. So if you needed to redact some names in something or on a piece of student work, there's a lot of different options. I know there are a lot of other tools that do this, but I really like Cami to do those annotations. All right, the other thing that I wanted to show you that Cami does that's probably one of my other game-changing tips is that when you get to this home screen, and it's going to want you to connect it with a Google account, but I love the split and merge tool. This is handy when you get everything together and you need to separate it or reorder it or take a page out of it. And if you haven't gotten to this part of the process yet, just know you're going to want to do that, especially when you think about component 4, where you got lots of different kinds of evidence. You can simply either drag things from your computer into there, or you can get something from Google Drive. So I'm actually going to take a bunch of documents. I have a Word document here, Google Docs, PDF, a whole mixture of stuff. I'm going to grab all of those. I'm going to load those in. All right, and next. There we go. So what Cami does in the split and merge mode is it creates little bookshelves that will allow you to drag in whatever order you want all of these documents. You can drag them around, you can rename them, you can export each one individually. So that is one of those things that will be handy to you when you get close to the end and you need to put things in order. It also has this little handy rotation tool. So there's nothing worse than you get everything ready and you scan it all in and one of them is sideways or wonky and you've got to fix that. So this allows you to fix that and you can export. And then at the top, it's also got merge mode. So if I wanted to, I could grab all of those, hit merge mode and export, and it takes all of those and puts them in one package. So I just love the versatility of Cami and what it can do for you when it comes to PDFs. So I use that one a ton.
Hey, Brandy, quick
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
The question is, can we use prontosign to have parent-student sign consent forms?
Yes, that was, and I'll demonstrate what it looks like on the iPad in just a minute, but that was the question that somebody had yesterday. And so I did research during lunch and this one was the one I preferred. So like a student release or student consent form, you can share that to a parent either through email or through like Google Drive, and then you can access it through that prontosign. So yeah, I'll pull that up on my iPad and we'll look at that in just a second because I think that'd be super handy. So yeah, this is just a little teaser for what I'm going to be covering today in the video session. You are going to, and if nothing else, remember this picture right here at the bottom. Always landscape, never portrait. Okay, so if you are using your phone or your tablet, which many people do, to video, don't video this way. They'll take it, but it is going to look better and edit better if you use landscape mode. So that's my first tip. My second tip would be think about what kind of video software you're going to use. You're almost always going to have something, if nothing else, just to trim the section for that amount of time that you want. If you're fortunate enough to have a Mac or know somebody who has one, I highly recommend iMovie. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, you have the ability to use iMovie. Not all the features, but a lot of them. And then there are some Windows recommendations here. I say again, beware of free downloads. If you look up free download of video editing software, that's a hot mess of stuff out there. I don't recommend a lot. Be sure you look at your instructions on what kinds of edits are allowed, because it may be you can only have 2 edits and they're very specific as to why you can allow that edit. But for the most part, trimming the ends, that's allowed. You don't want to do anything fancy, so you don't have to have all the fancy bells and whistles for iMovie. But the one recommendation I make for iMovie, and if you have it on your phone or tablet, I would recommend putting it into iMovie and boosting the volume. That is an acceptable edit. And for many people, it's a game changer, because when you go into that app on the tablet or on the Mac, you can go to volume and you can boost it. On my Mac, I can boost up to 400%. On my tablet, I can boost it up to 300%. So that's a big deal when you're trying to hear what's happening in your video. There are probably other softwares that do that, but I think Mac does it the easiest, and the iPad and iPhone do. You can edit your video online. So if you are just a Chromebook person and that's all you've got, then you don't have a choice of having a download, because you can't. So here are 2 possibilities. WeVideo is very popular, but these are not free. They have a lot of limitations. And so I think WeVideo is like $5 a month. So it's worth $5 if that's all you can do, is just pay the $5 for the 1 month, do the editing that you need, and then cancel. So anyway, that would be my recommendation for that. All right, so questions. If you are on this little slideshow, I do have this document if you think of something later that you want to drop in there. And if you want to put your email or Twitter handle or something there as well, I can try and address that specifically. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and open up to some questions. And I can also go back to, I say I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Like I have moved, there we go. I was like, I moved all of your pictures into a particular area. And now I'm like trying to maneuver. So, so anyway, questions, any thoughts that you have? And we'll start with the scanning evidence. If you have any tips or questions regarding scanning in evidence, put those in the chat or unmute and let me know if there's anything you've had a good experience with or any questions. Well, let me start this way. How many of you are brand new to the process? You have like barely started, just read the instructions. Give me either a thumbs up or a yes in the chat or a physical thumbs up. You're brand new, you're just starting. All right. So here's what I will tell you. I had somebody in my first session yesterday. She said, I came to one of your sessions last year and I completed component 4, just component 4 last year. She said, when I started this process, I had no idea like about what half the stuff you were talking about. She said, I'm just be honest. I was overwhelmed. I left there, my brain hurt. And I thought, I don't know how this applies. She said, and then I went about my business doing component 4 like this, like we do sometimes, forgetting anything you told me. And she said, then as I got toward the end, I remembered and I went back and looked at that slideshow and I thought, well, I'm an idiot. This sure would have saved time if I had done this or if I had tried this. So I will be honest with you, a lot of this stuff, until you need it, it's not going to make any sense. And you're going to wonder, why is she telling me all this? But I tell you this because of 3 years of working with candidates who have said, I don't know how to fix this, or I don't know how to do this. And so hopefully some of this will come back to you as you're going through the process and complete. Many people complete component 4 first. And because of that, that's where you end up using a lot of these tools. So.
Okay, so Brandy, in the chat, Sarah says that she uses the Genius Scan app for iPhone as well. And then we have some, let's see, D, a person after my own heart. We also were box people.
Yes. Yes, so it's intimidating.
Okay, and then let's see, I have another question about Candy. When parent-student sign, do they have to use iPad to sign? Pronto sign. Okay, when you do that, do you have to use the iPad?
So I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to share my screen and just show you a little of this prontosign product. I do not, I'm not going to say that prontosign is the be all end all. Just an FYI too, if you have a Zoom account, I just found this out in the middle of the summer, you can share your iPad screen in a Zoom session. So let's imagine that you're doing remote learning or you need to show your iPad in class for something. You can start your own Zoom session with just yourself and share your iPad. Can I just tell you, I've paid for things before to be able to put my iPad up on my screen and show it to my students. And now if you have Zoom, if you have like the free version, you can share it. So that's cool, I thought. Anyway, so here we are with prontosign. So the first step is that a parent would need to download the app itself. And up here at the top where it says signatures, they would need to create a signature. So it's very simple. There's a plus sign at the bottom. How do you want to do it? You could literally sign on a piece of paper and take a picture. So people who freak out about signing with their finger because it's not pretty, obviously I don't have that issue, but people that like their signature to look a certain way, they can take a picture, or you can say finger and you can just go in there and sign. That's hideous, but anyway, it works. And so here's all of my signatures that I have saved. Okay, so the next step is getting your document. So again, very simple. There's a plus sign at the bottom. Here are the options. Pronto scan, meaning it's already here. Gallery is like your camera roll. So parents, if they came to a physical open house or they took a picture of a document, they can pull that in, which is, I do that all the time. Like I take a picture of documents all the time, so you can do that. You can get it from your mail. So if it was emailed, you could do that. And then other apps. Now here's the thing with other apps. It tells you, hey, you have to go to the other app to access it. So if it's in another app, for example, in Google Drive, it says go find the document and choose open in or open with. So the other processes are fairly simple. Like if I had something in my photos, I could access it here. If I had something in my mail, you know, since you can open most email attachments in prontosign. And so I would go to my mail and access it. But then I wanted to show you, like, here is Google Drive for me. And so I would grab the student release form, and on the 3 dots over there, there's open in, just like it said there would be. Now, sometimes you have to look and it's not available in these apps. So I would have to go to those 3 dots and look. Now I have a lot of apps. Most people don't have all these, but I would choose copy to prontosign, and there it is. And all I would do is open it up, and I would click on this little pen over here, choose my signature. Voila. It's pretty darn easy. And then the little arrow at the top, it tells me here's what you can do. You can print it, email it. What do you want to do? I just think that that is pretty darn easy. I would probably make a little video teaching parents and students how to go through those steps. But if you think about it, you could probably get a large majority of parents to follow that on their phone. And the ones that you didn't, you could walk them through or physically get the form to them if you needed to. So hopefully that made sense. I just think that that's going to be something that we're going to be doing a lot of this year, just in general.
Okay, Brandy, another question. Let's see, let me find it here. Okay. In a previous session yesterday, someone mentioned to be careful about annotating too much on photos or scans because it can count towards the page limit. The question is this true? And also, how much can we annotate?
So this is what I'm going to tell you, and you're not going to like the answer. I always tell people, go back to your instructions for your portfolio. I asked Melissa a similar question because I said, people always ask me, so how many photos can I have in evidence? Or can I reduce something to a certain size? And I don't want to steer you wrong. So I would just say, definitely look at your portfolio instructions because they are very specific. Now, I promise you though, you're going to think of something that's not in there. And I've been told by Amber Trantham, who is another one of my NBCT gurus who does candidate support and has for years, she says that they have the ability, you have the ability to reach out to national boards and ask specific questions. So do it. So I don't know, I haven't heard anything about annotations taking more of your page limit. So I think it's going to depend upon, you know, what kind of evidence is it? Is it a student work? You know, is it a photo? For photos, sometimes you have to add like stickers or shapes over student faces. The program I recommend for that is Canva. I mentioned that in my sessions yesterday. That's a great one if you're editing photos. So anyway, that's kind of my answer to that. It's not great, but that's it.
And Brandy, I will agree with you on please call and ask national boards. I think most of us that have done this have had national boards on speed dial because there are so many questions, but I always prefer to first of all look at my documentation the national board has sent, and then next is to actually call national boards before you take a word of somebody else, because other people kind of get the dib sometimes and they can steer you wrong. Please don't get sucked into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see a question here. When you have parents sign digitally, would you print each one or save it in Google Drive or a file? Now you're asking the wrong girl, because I am digital all the time. Because if a teacher sends home a newsletter or a piece of paper, I have lost it before the nighttime. So I don't like to have lots of paper, but some people feel like there's a lot of comfort in having that paper and putting it in a folder. So either is fine. Whatever you want to do. I don't remember, Nancy, but they don't have to actually submit those forms, do they? They are just for your
No, that is purely for your documentation. You never ever turn that in, but you're just being very ethical and saying, I have permission forms from everybody that I have on tape, and that includes adults as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't print them out, but that's just me.
And Brandy, quick question. I know we're recording this. Is this going to be on Melissa's site, the Bootcamp site? Do we know where our sessions are going to be?
That is the plan. She started a document yesterday that had the presentation link and the recording link on it, but I don't remember. Did you share that with participants? Anybody give me a yes or no? Okay. I saw something come through my email last night, so I know she was collecting the recording links on there. So yeah, you'll have access to it. One thing I'll mention, and I'm going to mention this in my video session today too. I bought, I know you can't see it, but I bought this little tabletop tripod. That is a handy dandy thing. And I have some recommendations in my video session today. If you don't have something like that, I would recommend that you get one. I love the ones with the bendy legs, because you can, the ones that have the longer legs, you can literally like wrap it around stuff and mount it on things. And, you know, now that we're going to be possibly socially distanced, you're going to maybe need to move that phone or camera all different places, get small group conversations and things like that. So I don't have a lot of equipment recommendations, because I have seen some videos that were done with very, very professional equipment, and even the district had people assigned to video for the teacher, but the video wasn't what needed to be shown for national boards. Then I've seen terrible videos done portrait style, terrible as in quality, that were phenomenal. And I knew within 2 minutes that video was exactly what needed to be done for national boards. So don't get so caught up in, do I have the right equipment? Be more caught up about, is the lesson I'm doing the right thing? And even less about you too, because one of my videos when I first certified was during homecoming week. I'm a former high school English teacher for 13 years. It was homecoming week. It was hat day. We're all in hats. I'm in a hat. I love dressing up. So I'm in a hat and everything, but I videoed every single day, because I was like, I'm going to get the right video. And that was the right video. And I was mortified that I was wearing a hat, and my people were too. But I just wrote about it. And that was one of my highest scores. So, you know, don't stress about the little things. Make sure the big thing, the instruction and what's going on with your kids and what the video shows your kids doing, that's really important.
Okay, so Brandy, we have 4 minutes and 2 questions here, and then I'm going to put the attendance page and the PD form back in the chat before we end. So here's the first question. Have you heard if PIVO, P-I-V-O, is good to use to record?
I don't even know what PIVO is. Now I need to learn. What? PIVO. Somebody
okay.
give me a heads up on PIVO.
Okay, here's the next question while people are responding. Students and teachers will be wearing masks in my system. Do you recommend an external microphone when recording?
So I do address that a little bit in my other session. There are some external microphone possibilities. Don't break the bank on them. You could probably spend 20 bucks, a little more, and get one that will hook into your phone or tablet if that's what you're using, like a lavalier mic. And so you could clip it on you, and then you could physically take it around to groups. I mean, that's not ideal, but that is one option. There are several microphones out there, and I'm seeing somebody said swivel. So yeah, swivel is super expensive. If you have the option to use that, that's pretty good. Pivo, I guess, is a swivel type thing. It's essentially a robot that will follow your voice or whatever while you're teaching. But I would just say, keep in mind, it's less about you and more about your students. So if the swivel is following you the whole time, what do you have to do then for it to follow the students? Because I would venture to say less of you in the video and more of the students. Swivel is great. I just ordered one because so many people are utilizing them. And I'm going to be practicing with it too. So I don't say that Pivo or Swivel are necessities. I mean, I think you can probably get a pretty good video with your phone.
Okay, 2 minutes remaining. And I just posted the attendance form. If you've already filled this out, and you don't have to fill it out right now, you can fill it out at any point during the day, but the attendance form is the bit.ly, and also in Power School, you're going to see that link that will take you to the site in order to get professional development credit. So we have 2 more minutes. Brandy? Any other questions?
Thank you for attending. You guys were super attentive and asked some great questions. And look, I even see some return visitors. You guys are really glutton for punishment. You've heard all the same stories and ideas and everything else. But I do appreciate it. And hopefully after hearing it once, twice, or even 3 times, you're like, hey, now it makes sense. I don't know.
But hey, guys, if this is your first time, or even if you are renewing maintenance certificate, whichever it is, it's always good to have a buddy. It's always nice to be able to commiserate with somebody, regardless if they are the same certificate as you or not. Just having someone to go, hey, this is what I'm reading. Is this what you're reading? Or this is what I'm doing. You're going, yeah. It's very nice to have somebody else, even if they're not in the same school building. But yes, hopefully they will be.
All right, I'll stick around for a few minutes if anybody has any specific questions you want to ask. Otherwise, we are done. Thank you.
Y'all have a great day. I love the sound effects.
Ding, 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 ding. All right, so you, Nancy, do you have another session next?
Let's see. Let me look at the schedule.
I couldn't believe I had a break. Yesterday, I was solid the whole day.
I saw that you guys started with like an hour and then went to 3 hours, 3 hours. I was going, oh my goodness, you and Kelly must have just been drop dead. Ugh.
I was exhausted yesterday. And I don't know if I shared with you that that my whole family had COVID.
Yes.
And yesterday that was my first day of like work. And I mean, I was, by the end of the day, I was dead because I haven't done anything really for 2 solid weeks.
Well, I wouldn't have known it because you're so energetic. I mean, you know, so, I mean, because I have a friend who's going, you know, I'm just, you know, and she is on the upswing now, but she just said, I just don't have any energy. I'm not able to sleep. And so now she's on the other side. She's in week 2 and she goes, I feel better. I'm getting more energy. But
the fatigue is you can't even imagine, because I am a high energy person. So when I was just laying around all the time, and, you know, we have a family of 5 and 4 of the 5 of us had it. And I was supposed to do Zoom sessions like every morning last week, and I had to cancel. And I said, I just don't think I've got the energy, even for a 2-hour Zoom session each morning, not and be the nurse to everybody else and try to take care of myself.
Right.
So anyway. But yes, Kelly and I told Kelly about the end of the day, I said, you're so tired of my same stories and jokes. But I didn't know how tired I was until I just sat down and, you know, took a break. Gosh. All right. Well,